Hey there and welcome. Have you ever stopped to wonder what actually makes a university degree valuable? How do we know the quality is there? Well, it's a pretty huge and complex system, but today we're going to pull back the curtain and demystify the whole thing. We're breaking down academic quality assurance into simple, clear steps. It all has to start with a big idea, a vision. And this quote from Malaysia's national education philosophy, this is the North Star for the entire higher education system. It's about so much more than just churning out employees. It's about nurturing well-rounded people who are going to go on to build a better country. So keep this big idea in the back of your mind as we get into the nitty-gritty. Okay, let's dive in. Here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with that big picture vision, then we'll zoom right down to the ground level, a single classroom, to see how learning actually gets measured. After that, we'll see how all those little measurements get stocked up to define a whole degree program, how that data fuels a cycle of constant improvement, and finally, how it all has to prove its worth against a national benchmark. It's a journey from 30,000 feet down to the details and right back up again. So first up, let's stick with that big picture for a moment. How do you take a really beautiful philosophy about creating holistic graduates and turn it into a concrete system that actually works across hundreds of universities and thousands of different courses? Well, you build a master plan. And that's exactly what the Malaysian Qualifications Framework, or MQF, is. Think of it like the architectural blueprints for the entire country's education system. It sets the rules and the standards for every single qualification, from a basic certificate all the way up to a PhD. This is what ensures that a degree from one place is just as credible and rigorous as a degree from anywhere else in the country, and that it holds up on the world stage, too. All right, now we're going to zoom all the way in, because this massive national framework, it's actually built on a foundation of what happens in one single course with one group of students. And the fundamental building block of all of this is the Course Learning Outcome, or CLO for short. It's a really simple but incredibly powerful idea. A CLO isn't about what the professor is going to teach, it's about what the student will be able to do by the end of it. It's specific, it's action-focused, and, this is the most important part, it's measurable. And here's where the rubber really meets the road. A CLO isn't just some sentence in a document. It's a complete, connected loop. So for the outcome here, to evaluate strategy in measuring learning outcomes, you can see exactly what topics are covered to get there, how it's taught with lectures and case studies, and then, crucially, how you prove it. It's measured with a case study report and the final exam. See? Every single piece is connected. So that's one course. That makes sense. But a student takes, dozens of courses to get a degree? So how on earth do you connect the dots from that one specific skill we just saw to the quality of an entire 3 or 4 year program? Well, the whole process is kind of like building with Legos. It all starts with one single brick, one course, which measures a very specific set of skills. But over a few years, a student completes 40, maybe even more of these courses. Each one is another brick, another proven set of skills. And eventually, all of those individual bricks of learning, they combine to build one solid, complete structure, a full degree program. Now, to make sense of this big structure, you need a bigger blueprint. And that's where the Program Learning Outcome, or PLO, comes into play. These are the big-ticket items. We're talking about the broader skills and attributes a graduate should walk away with. Things like critical thinking, communication, leadership, the stuff they'll actually use in the real world. And this right here, this is the magic. This is how the system connects all those tiny dots to see the big picture. So let's say you have a broad program outcome, a PLO, like apply critical and analytical skills. How do you prove a student can do that? Well, you don't guess. You map specific, measurable CLOs from a bunch of different courses. The ability to analyze database queries, plus the ability to evaluate software design, plus the ability to assess AI algorithms. All of that adds up to become direct, hard evidence for that bigger skill. It's brilliant. Okay, so we've got all of this data, from individual quizzes all the way up to program-level skills. But let's be real. Data that just sits in a spreadsheet is pretty useless, right? The key is what you do with it. And that brings us to the next step, turning all this information into meaningful action. This is what's called Continual Quality Improvement, or CQI. And you should think of this as the powerful, dynamic engine of the entire system. It's what makes sure that quality assurance isn't just a box-ticking exercise or a dusty pile of paperwork. It's a living, breathing process of always trying to get better. And it follows this beautifully simple and logical cycle. First, you plan an improvement based on the data you've collected. Then you do it, you actually implement the change in a course. Then you check the new results to see if it actually worked. And finally, you act on what you've learned, either making the change permanent or going back to the drawing board. Plan, do, check, act. It's a constant loop of refinement. So, how do you make sure this improvement cycle is based on solid ground and not just, a gut feeling? This is my favorite part of the whole system. It uses a powerful technique called triangulation. It's like a three-legged stool, super stable. Leg 1 is the hard quantitative CLO data from every single assessment. Leg 2 is the aggregated PLO data, which shows you the bigger trends. And Leg 3, the crucial one, is the qualitative CQI recommendations, the expert analysis from lecturers who can explain why the numbers look the way they do. By combining these three different points of view, you get a rock-solid, complete picture of your program's quality. And now, it's time to zoom all the way back out. Because this entire incredibly detailed system of collecting data, mapping it, and constantly improving, it all serves one final, absolutely critical purpose: proving that the program is good enough to meet the national standard. This is where something called the Code of Practice for Program Accreditation, or just COPPA, comes in. Think of this as the final inspection, the championship game. To get that national stamp of approval, a program has to show concrete evidence that it's excelling across these 7 critical areas, everything from how they assess students to the quality of the professors. This is the ultimate test. And this right here, this is the big payoff. This is the aha moment. So how do you provide that evidence for these national standards? Well, let's just look at Area 2 assessment of student learning. Boom. Your CLO and PLO data is the direct proof that your assessments are valid and they work. And what about Area 7, program monitoring and CQI? The evidence is the entire triangulation process we just talked about. The system itself becomes the proof of its own quality. It's a perfect closed loop. So there you have it, from a huge national vision for creating well-rounded graduates, all the way down to a single question on an exam, and all the way back up to getting a national stamp of approval. It's a system designed not just to measure things, but to constantly make things better. And it really leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? If this kind of model of defining outcomes, measuring them, and then using that data to improve can bring this much clarity to something as complex as education, where else could we apply it to make a real difference?